53b. We were discussing, do you count the different blows of the trumpets that they blew? The question is, do you count them as each one as a separate mitzvah, or was it all counted as, meaning we had groups of three, right? You had a Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah. And in our Mishnah, we counted each blow as a separate blow. And there was an opinion in the Gemara that said, no, we don't count them each as a separate blow. We count each set of three as one. Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah as all one. The Gemara explained that rabbi holds that it's called one mitzvah. The Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah is one mitzvah, and therefore he counts it as one. The other rabbi who counts the three as three, the three blasts, Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah, as three, he holds that each one is a separate mitzvah. And the Gemara is now going to share a practical difference. What's the difference if you consider them one mitzvah, the three, or you consider it each one a separate mitzvah, would be how much time you would have between each blow, right? If you hold each one is a separate mitzvah, so if you interrupt between each one, you still will get credit for the mitzvah. But if you hold that it's all one long mitzvah, so the Gemara is going to say you can't really interrupt between one blow and the other blow. That's what the Gemara wanted to say. So in today's learning, and we are on 53b. Art scroll is 53b 4. Kaman Ozla Hadam Rav Kahana. Who is the following statement? We're gonna have a statement that's said by Rav Kahana, and Rav Kahana says, "Ein vein tekiah letrua v'lo klum." Between a tekiah and a trua, there can't be any interruption between a tekiah and a trua. Whose opinion is that in sync with? That the Gemara says would seem to be command Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Kahana is taking the position of Rav Yehuda. The fact that Rav Kahana says, Adam, that you cannot you can't have space, time between the tekiah and the trua. That seems to, whose opinion is that? That's Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda holds it's one mitzvah. If it's one mitzvah, you shouldn't interrupt. But according to the Chachamim, you should technically be able to have some space between one mitzvah and the other mitzvah, one blow and the other blow, since they're separate mitzvahs. Mm-hmm. That is the Gemara's. The Gemara wants to. What do you have wrong? The Gemara wants to say that it's a proof that he holds that they're separate, that they're all one mitzvah. The fact that you can't interrupt between one and the other. Now, maybe. I mean, perhaps we could say maybe it's not a proof. The fact that you hold as separate mitzvahs, but these mitzvahs are connected to each other, right? They're all about, the Torah said, Yom Trua. Torah said there should be a time of do a Trua, and or the Torah says, what if Torah skatem b'chasosros or b'chasosos tisko, by Rosh Hashanah it says Yom Trua, it says language of Trua, but by the karbonos that we blow the shofar, so even if they are considered separate mitzvos, perhaps you should have, but they should be connected, because it is it is a tekiah, trua, tekiah. These are sounds, and even if they're separate mitzvahs, there might be a svara, which we could try to think about, why they should be right next to each other, because it is a set. It is a set of tekiah, trua, tekiah. Even if you say they're separate mitzvahs, but they're still a set coming together. If they're a set coming together, so maybe it should not be interrupted one with the other. But the Gemara, nevertheless, at this point, wants to suggest that this statement, that there should not be an interruption between the tekiah, the true and tekiah, when you're blowing for the carbon, is in sync with Rabbi Yehuda, that says that they're all one mitzvah. Okay? Here's the question, Avram. The question is that we're blowing the trumpets, and we're blowing the trumpets, and we have to blow a tekiah, true a tekiah, and this statement says you can't have you can't have interruption between one sound and the other sound, and the Gemara says that seems to be in conjunction with Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that says they're all one mitzvah. Each set, tekiah, true and tekiah, is like one mitzvah. Since they're one mitzvah, you can't interrupt within that same mitzvah. You're doing one mitzvah, you should interrupt. But if they're separate, Chacham hold each one is a separate mitzvah. So if each one is a separate mitzvah, technically there could be a space between each one. So the Gemara shoots back, Shita. The Gemara shoots back, isn't that obvious? Why does the Gemara have to tell us that Rav Kahana agrees with Rabbi Yehuda? Rav Kahana says clearly you can't have space between one and the other. Obviously, it's one mitzvah. Even though I questioned that, I said maybe it's not. Maybe you can hold the different mitzvahs, but they still have to be connected. But the Gemara at this point understands no. It's obvious that if it's one mitzvah, you can't have spacing in between, and therefore, who is the one who holds that way? That's Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara says, no. The Gemara said it's not obvious. Now maybe, so let's see what the Gemara says. So the Gemara says, Mao de Tema, now on Nun Dalet Amud Aleph, 54a, Nun Dalet Amud Aleph, 1. So the Gemara says, Mahu de Tema, you might have thought, Afilak Rabbana, you might have thought that this could even be in sync with the Rabbanan's opinion. And look at Rashi. Rashi says, and you would be able to interrupt a small hafsaka. You would be able to interrupt a short amount of time. You might have said, without the rabbi teaching us, you would have said that maybe each one is a separate mitzvah. And you can interrupt a little bit between each one. But the reason why Rav Kahana says this, Rav Kahana says that you can't interrupt between one blast and another blast, maybe that could even go like the Rabbanan, but Lafukid Rabbi Yochanan. When he says you can't have spacing between each one, maybe it means to say you can't do what Rabbi Yochanan says. What did Rabbi Yochanan say? Rabbi Yochanan has a very interesting opinion. The Amma, Rabbi Yochanan says, someone says Shama Sheishet Tekiyot B'Teish Shos. So the Gemara is comparing the blowing of the trumpets also to Rosh Hashanah. That the same argument between the rabbis when it comes to blowing the trumpets in the Beit HaMikdash would be the same argument regarding the shofar. Do you have, is it considered one mitzvah? When you blow a tekiah, true a tekiah, tekiah, true a tekiah, right? Would you be able to interrupt between a tekiah, true a tekiah, or you're not allowed to interrupt between a true a tekiah if there's spacing? So the Gemara says, you might have said that this ruling is coming to exclude Rabbi Yochanan. What did Rabbi Yochanan say? The Amma, he says, Shama Tesha Tekiyot. if a person heard 9 sounds, B'tesha sha'ot b'yom, in 9 hours in the day, what happened? From 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., every hour on Rosh Hashanah, they blew one sound. They blew, let's say on Rosh Hashanah, how many sounds do you have to blow on a Torah level on Rosh Hashanah to fulfill the mitzvah of blowing the shofar Rosh Hashanah? The Torah says by Rosh Hashanah, Yom Trua, it says 3 times, we learn out that you have to blow, you have to do 3 truas on Rosh Hashanah. And each trua has to be preceded by a tekiah and followed by a tekiah to fulfill your biblical obligation of blowing the shofar, which would mean 9 sounds. Again, trua is that breaking sound, preceded by a tekiah and followed by a tekiah. 3 times, it's 9 times, 9 sounds. Now, what you might have said. Now, by the way, how much do we blow? If you blow for a sick person, right? You blow 30 sounds. That's at least Ashkenaz custom is 30 sounds for a sick person. In the synagogue, we blow 100 sounds, 100 sounds of the shofar. But on a Torah level, you only have to blow 9 sounds. But why do we blow? Rashi points out, why do we blow, many more? Let's say for a sick person, we'll blow 30. Why is that? Because the Torah says trua, which is a breaking sound. A tekiah, we know what a tekiah is. Tekiah is a straight, long sound. Tekiah, no question. When the Torah says trua means a cry. The Targum Yonkelis says yabava, a breaking sound. But the question is, what's called a breaking sound? Is it trua what we call trua, or is it trua what we call shvarim, two, or is it trua combination, two, what we call a shvarim trua? So, because of the question of what is the trua, we do all 3. We do the tekiah, what we call tekiah shvarim tekiah 3 times. We do tekiah shvarim trua 3 times, and tekiah trua tekiah 3 times. We do a set 3. We make sure we get 3 times with a tekiah preceding a tekiah afterwards. That a breaking sound. And if you count them up, if you count shvarim trua as 2 sounds, so that you get 30 sounds. You have 30 sounds for a sick person. And we don't say the custom is not but Ashkenazim, at least for a sick person, you go blow in their house. You don't have to do 100 sounds. You just do 30 sounds, but you fulfilled the mitzvah. There are other opinions that we said that understand any breaking sound would work, whether it's a trua or type of sound, or a shvara, which is tu, or the combo. Anyone would work. But meaning Rashi seems to indicate, because it's a safek, it's a question. What is the true sound? And to ensure that we're doing the right thing, right, Abraham? We go ahead and we do all the different possibilities. But the Sefer Chinuch brings down that really, as long as it's a breaking sound, it would be good. But we don't want it to look like there's 2 Torahs, as if you come to a community in Syria and they're blowing one way, and they're going to Morocco, they're doing a different type of trua. It looks like we don't have one Torah. It looks like they're doing the mitzvah, the performance. You go to any synagogue in the world on Sukkot, they have 4 minim, Dasim, Arova, Lulav, and Etor. They do the same way. They don't. There's no real change. There's no, whether you're Sfarad or Ashkenaz, how they tie it to the Lulav, how they tie it. That's Arova. It's not a major difference. But if the mitzvah of the shofar is the blowing of the shofar, and if the shofar blowing, the sound would be different, it's a totally different type of sound. You come to one place, they do a one place they do a combo. It looks like there's 2 Torah. It looks like there's 2 Torahs. And therefore, to unite the community, they said all the world should do the same thing, do the multiple combinations. Because this second opinion would hold as long as it's a crying sound, you fulfill your mitzvah. And obviously, you can understand why on Rosh Hashanah you have that combination of the long sound, the tekiah, which most probably represents like when you want to coronate a king, when you inaugurate a king, you blow to a long sound. It also might indicate long live the king. It's a sound of kingship, and therefore it makes sense that Rosh Hashanah is a time that we recognize Hashem's kingship, and therefore it's appropriate to have a tekiah sound. But at the same time, Rosh Hashanah, we have to break, our hearts need to be broken in a certain sense. We have to repent. We have to feel tshuva. So we have to recognize the seriousness of the day. So if we have that broken sound, you have the tekiah and you have the trua, which symbolizes the broken sound. So that could explain why we have the tekiah and the trua. Now, so the Gemara says, Mahu Detema. We're now on Nun Dalet Amar Aleph, 54a. Mahu Detema, you might have thought, Afilach Rabbana. You might have thought that the statement of Kahana that you shouldn't interrupt between a tekiah and a trua with the straight blast and the broken blast could even be like the Rabbanan. And why? But how can it be like the Rabbanan? The Rabbanan say that they're all the separate mitzvot. So the fact he says that you can't interrupt sounds like they're not separate. They're not. They're one mitzvah. So the Gemara says lafuke midrabanan, lafuke mirabbi Yochanan. You might have said when he says you can't interrupt, you might have thought he means to say you can't have a long interruption, but perhaps you could have a small interruption. Because maybe each one is a separate mitzvah. That's what you might have thought. You might have understood Rav Kahana when he says you can't interrupt between the tekiah and the trua. That means you can't have a large interruption. But maybe you could have a small interruption. And what does he mean you can't interrupt to exclude from the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan? What did Rabbi Yochanan say? Shama teisha tekiyot. If you heard 9 shofar blasts, it doesn't mean 9 tekiah sounds. Tekiah here means sounds of the shofar. I mean tekiah, trua, tekiah, tekiah, trua, tekiah, tekiah, trua, tekiah. Rabbi Yochanan said if you heard 9 shofar sounds over 9 hours, he blew every hour. How do you like that, Adam? Every hour he blew one sound. 9 o'clock in the morning, tekiah to 10 a.m. He blew. How do you like that, Rav? 10 a.m. He blew a trua. 11 o'clock, then he blew the tekiah, next tekiah. He blew every hour one sound. And Rabbi Yochanan says, it's fine. There is an opinion that Rabbi Yochanan says it doesn't mean that you should do it. Rabbi Yochanan says that if you went ahead and you did it, you get credit. So you might have thought that this Rav Kahana is coming to exclude that opinion, to say that doesn't work. You can't have such an interruption. But perhaps he would agree that you can have a small interruption. Kamash Malan, that's why we need the Gemara to teach us that that we do not, that this opinion that says you don't interrupt between the tekiah and trua is not like the Rabbanan. It's not like the Rabbanan who say you're allowed to have a small interruption. Rather, it's like Rabbi Yehuda. Again, you would have thought maybe this opinion could even feel like the Rabbanan. And when it says you can't interrupt, means you can't have a large interruption. But a small interruption you could have, because each one is a separate mitzvah. Therefore, the Gemara teaches us that no, this statement of Kahana holds you can't interrupt at all. And it's not like the Rabbanan. Because this opinion holds it's all one mitzvah. So the Gemara shoots back. Maybe Rav Kahana is really going like the Rabbanan. And really, when Rav Kahana says you can't interrupt, means you can't have a large interruption. How do we know we can't interrupt at all? So the Gemara says, in Cain, my velo klum. He says the words velo klum. The words, if you just want to say you can't have a large interruption, you say ain bain, you can't have between this and that. And maybe you mean you can't have a large interruption. the fact that the Rav Kahana says velo klum, so velo klum means to indicate that you can't have any type of interruption. Um, let's continue in the Gemara. Erev Shabbat shebetoch Chag. To just know that they bring down, Rashi is interesting. When Rashi says, even the opinion that says that you can't have any interruption between the Tki and the Trua, but that opinion held that they're all one mitzvah. Rashi says, but they had you could have but kedei neshima, an interruption of a breath between the Tki and the Trua. That's what that opinion holds. And then the question would be, what would be the reason why? What does Rashi mean when Rashi says that you would have a breath's interruption between the Tki and the Trua? Doesn't mean Rashi holds that even if you hold that one mitzvah, you still must, that opinion would hold, you must have a breath between each Tki and Trua. But if you don't have a breath, maybe it's not considered, maybe it's like a run-up. Maybe it's like one, would you look at it as one long sound? So in the commentaries, it says, not everybody, by the way, agrees with Rashi's understanding. Some say that some say that you have to put Rabbi Yehuda, you have to blow all of them in one time. Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah in one breath. Now, lahalacha, we hold like the Chachamim. So we hold the Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah, each one is a separate mitzvah. And they say that you do not need to blow the Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah in one breath. And in the Shulchan Aruch, the poskim discuss: are you allowed to blow it all of them in one breath? Now, so if you look in Shulchan Aruch, take a look at 594, 590, which would be tough kuf 90 Sadi. Let's take a look at 4. So you'll see it maybe tomorrow. Maybe we'll go more into about a lot of discussion about regarding regarding a breath. Let's see. We'll see more about this issue. Okay, so let's take a look at the Gemara, the next piece of Gemara, because what they're going to discuss is the Shvarim Trua, right? When you blow the Shvarim Trua, is the Shvarim Trua sound? How do you blow that sound? Do you say that the Shvarim Trua has to be in one breath, or the Shvarim Trua in 2 breaths? So we'll have to see more about that discussion. So let's take a look at the Gemara. Erev Shabbat shebetoch Chag. You have it on 4 lines from the top. Erev Shabbat shebetoch Chag. So when we said in the Mishnah, right? The Mishnah stated that on Erev Shabbat, they would blow extra sounds of the shofar or the trumpet. They would blow to tell the people to get ready that Shabbat is coming. Since Shabbat is coming, you got to go ahead and stop working, Very important. We got to make sure people need reminders to stop working. To people in the fields. One sound was for the people in the fields. The second sound was for the people in the stores to stop working. The third sound, the third blow was to tell the people that you gotta just take the pots off the fire. Excuse me, figure out the last preparations that you're doing in the house to finalize that. So the Mishnah stated that there could be a total of 48 sounds of the shofar or the trumpet on Erev Shabbat that's of Chalamoid Sukkot. On Chalamoid Sukkot, if let's say it will be the holiday of Sukkot, on Friday of the holiday of Sukkot, but not the holiday itself, but the Chalamoid of Sukkot, there'll be 48 blasts of the trumpet that they would be blowing, because the Gemara says every shachrit, the korbanot of shachrit, the ola of shachrit, the daily offering will have 9 sounds of the shofar, and we said the mincha, the tamid, the afternoon korban had another 9 sounds. The musaf had another 9 sounds, so that's 27. And then you had every day when they opened up the gates, they had another 3 sounds, which made it 30 sounds. And then we had on Erev Shabbat, there was 6 extra every Erev Shabbat was an extra 6 sounds, which made it 36. Then in honor of the uniqueness of the mitzvah of Simchat Beit, of the mitzvah of drawing of the water, there was another 12 sounds. So we had 12. So 36 and 12 would be a maximum. We had 48 sounds on Erev Shabbat of Sukkot. That's what the Gemara said. Now, when the Mishnah stated the 48 sounds, the Mishnah did not count that when they were going down the steps from the Ezras Yisrael to the Ezras Noshim, when they were going down the steps, there were 15 steps that they would go down. And those 15 steps, on the top of the steps, they blew the shofar, and they blew the trumpets, and when they got to the bottom, they blew it again. Now that means when they're leaving in the morning, early in the morning, they're leaving to go ahead and to draw the water. The whole night they celebrated. The whole night they had a Simchat Beit HaShueva. There was the dancing, there was the singing, there was the juggling of the torches. But then it's time now, after the whole night celebration in preparation for this great mitzvah. And after they celebrated, then early in the morning, they went to go draw the water. But now they're starting the process of drawing the water. So it says that the Levium would be on those steps. They would be playing the instruments on the steps that go from the certain courtyard in the Beit HaMikdash. From one courtyard, there were steps leading from one to the other. Those steps were 15 steps, and David HaMelech, said Shir HaMalot, because David HaMelech had 15 Shir HaMalot, those steps correspond to those 15 Shir HaMalot. Yes. Yeah, as the top one. If Mizbeach was I would think it's that area. You have to look. It might have been even further. Might even been further up. Might have even been closer. Because there's Ezras Nashim, Ezras Yisrael, Ezras Kohanim. So that it might have been maybe we have to look it up. It might have been more by Ezras Kohanim. Might have been the Mizbeach. But then as you're getting closer, then you go to the Heichal. It's not just it's an actual area, but the Mishnah and the Mishnah says they made they made a balcony in the beginning. Where they used to have the women, which you're alluding to, Abraham, Rishona, the women were on the inside. What happened was the women came to join in to the festivities of the Simchat Beit HaShoeva, that they had these festivities, a celebration. And originally the women were in the Ezrat Nashim, and the men were outside the Ezrat Nashim, Barahara Bayit, before the Ezrat Nashim. And then what happened was, there was too much kalat rosh. There was too much socialization between the women and the men. So they said that the women should be more outside, but harabayit, the men to be but ezrat nashim. But they still were problems. Too much socialization. So they said that the women should be lamaila. They made the balcony for the women in the ezrat nashim. So that's where they that's where they made the, what do you want to say? Right?
But men were there.
Men were right. It's Nashim, but it was the last area where women were allowed to go. That's why it's called Ezrat Nashim. Even though men could be there, exactly. So we had earlier, there was a statement that said, there was another Mishnah. The Mishnah said that when they got to the 10th step, again, there were 10 steps. So again, they blew the shofar on the top of the steps, right? When they're getting ready to go ahead and we're about to get ready to go draw the water. So we're leaving they're leaving the Beit HaMikdash, and they're making a procession. So on the top of the steps, they would blow the trumpets. Then the Mishnah earlier had said, when they get to the 10th step, the 15 steps, to the top, they're going down, the 15 step, they got to the 10th step, and the Gemara has a question, which the Gemara did not answer. We're going to wait for Eliyahu to answer us. What does it mean, the 10th step? It means 10 steps from the top or 10 steps from the bottom? Is it, when they got to the 10th step, they blew again. And then when they got down, when they reached the bottom of the steps, they blew again. And then when they came back with the water, after they went to draw the water, then when they came back with the water, when they would enter the Shara Mayim, when they went to a certain gate for morning doctor, they would again blow again the trumpets. All in honor of this Simchat Beit HaShoeva, and the blowing of the trumpets is a sign of Simcha. Why are you blowing these trumpets? Because it's Simcha. It's Shafta Mayim B'Sason. You draw the water with happiness. That's why in the Beit HaMikdash there was a band. Adam, you know about there was a band in the Beit HaMikdash every day. There was a band with musical instruments. Judaism has to be alive and kicking. Simcha. When they would pour the wine on the Mizbeach every day, they would be playing music and they would sing it. The Levium would sing. The whole thing going on, because not this rock music, you know what I'm saying, what goes on today. It was real, and the songs they would the Levium had songs of Tehillim, like we say every day in the davening, Hashir Shei Levium Hayomer Beit HaMikdash. They had the Levium sang specific song, and so that is what was going on. But the previous Mishnah mentioned the idea of 10, the 10th step. And here we don't say anything about the 10th step. This Mishnah talks about the counting of 48 sounds that they did, it doesn't say, it doesn't count the 10th step. What happened that this Mishnah did not say that when they were going down from the Ezrat Yisrael to Ezrat Nashim in honor to draw the water, that when they reached the 10th step, they blew the trumpets. Why didn't the Mishnah state that? So the Gemara says, that's how Gemara is taking place. Ilu lamala asirit loktani masitin. Loktani. Our Mishnah did not mention the 10th step. Mani, who is the author of our Mishnah? It's going not like the other Mishnah that says they blew on the 10th step. So the Gemara says, because this is a matter of argument. It's not universal that everybody agrees that they blew the trumpets on the 10th step on the way down to get ready to go to draw the water, because the Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says you would not blow on the 10th step. Who is the author of our Mishnah? The Gemara says, Masnitin Mani. Who is the author of the Mishnah? The Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. The author of our Mishnah is, but sir, I think your money in your pocket has fallen out, if you don't mind me telling you. So the Gemara says, who is the author? So the Gemara says, Tanya, Shalosh Lamala Hasirit. So Shalosh, there were 3 blows of the trumpet that they blew on the 10th step when they're on their way down to go to draw the water. But Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says no. They did not blow it over there. Shalosh al gabe hamizbeach. When they would, there was a special mitzvah every day in the Beit HaMikdash to place a ravot, special hashanot. They used very long hashanot by the side of the mizbeach. They would place hashanot. That was halacha l'Moshe Misinai, to place every day the hashanot by the mizbeach. And I think you could suggest the reason is because the Mishnah says, B'chag, on Rosh Hashanah, not on Rosh Hashanah, sorry, on Sukkot, we are judged for water. Hoshanot, these long Hoshanot, where do they grow? So beautifully, Arvei Nachal, they grow by the water. So in the merit that we do this mitzvah, Hashem wants us to be successful, gives us the mitzvah to go ahead and put these Hoshanot by the Mizbeach, and in that merit, Hashem will bless us with a lot of great water. So he says that when you're doing that, there you go ahead and that's where you're gonna blow the trumpets when you go ahead and you're doing that mitzvah of placing the Hoshanot by the Mizbeach. Other opinions understand this Gemara, not they say it's referring to the pouring of the water, the actual pouring of the water of the Mayim, Nisach HaMayim on the Mizbeach, on the altar during holiday Sukkot. That's what it's referring to when it says Al Gabi Mizbeach. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. Great to have Abraham. Welcome to the class, and have a great day, everybody. Thank you, Ralph, for being here.
Have a good day.
Good day, yes.
You. Rabbi, maybe
Yes.
the next time I come in, I can borrow a Chumash Siddur. I don't have one.
100%. What kind of what do you want? I mean, the Gemara you want to borrow, or you want
Yeah, the Gemara. Yeah, the Gemara, so I can follow along.
100%. You got it.
Okay. All right.
Have
Good
a
day.
great day. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.